Hey up everyone, hope you're all doing well. How would a prime Anderson Silva get on against a ranked middleweight division? Now just to let you know how this works, from rank 15 all the way to rank 11 it'll be 3-round fights only. From rank 10 all the way to the champion it'll be 5-round fights. If you love this sort of content, make sure to subscribe. We've done this for all the champions moving up a weight division, and now we're going to start doing it for legends, mythical fighters. So let me know in the comment section who you want to see this sort of video for next. Starting off at number 15, we have Roman Kopylov, who just suffered a defeat to Paulo Costa a few weeks back. How would a prime Anderson Silva get on against Roman Kopylov? I do think Anderson Silva would win this one. Kopylov, he's very good offensively, but when I feel like it comes to his defense, it's not that great. He's also quite tall for the division as well. He's quite a big guy for the division, but I feel like Anderson Silva would be able to land a lot of clean shots on Roman Kopylov and damage him quite badly. And also in the clinch, I feel like he'd have a lot of success with his lovely knees as well. I think this will be a very clear 30-27 for Anderson Silva. Next up at number 14, we have Magomedov. How would he get on against Anderson Silva? He's going to have to change his name to a bum Magomedov, because that's what Anderson Silva would do. He would make Magomedov look like an absolute bum, and he'll get a very dominant 30-27. In fact, no, actually, I think he'll get a second round knockout over Magomedov. I don't think Magomedov, don't get me wrong, I think he's quite decent, but I just don't rate him that much. I rate Roman Kopylov a lot more, but I think Anderson Silva would absolutely piss on Magomedov. At number 13, we have Marvin Vettori, and I think we all know how this one goes. Marvin Vettori is well known for being a punch bag. Is it going to change in this fight against a prime Anderson Silva? No, he's still going to be a punch bag. Anderson Silva is going to beat the living shit out of him. I don't think he'll finish. I don't think he'll finish Marvin Vettori, because in all fairness, he has probably the best chin in all of the UFC, in my opinion. At least he's got one of the best chins in all of the UFC. And I think Anderson Silva will just absolutely dominate him. Maybe get a 30-26, if not a 30-27. Now, moving on to number 12, we have the eraser, Bohachina, Paulo Costa, one of the funniest guys on Twitter. But how would he get in the octagon against Anderson Silva? I think Costa could have some moments of success. I feel like when Costa's actually switched on and motivated, I feel like he is good. I think the problem with Costa, I think he's very talented. He can be good on his day. I think it's all up here. I think once he suffers a bit of adversity, he kind of shits himself a bit. You know, the last time that wasn't the case was against Joe Romero, when he had a back and forth. But after the Joe Romero fight, anytime he faces any bit of adversity, he just kind of shits himself a bit. And I feel like Anderson Silva will be able to get a 30-27 over Paulo Costa. I think Costa will be able to land some decent shots here and there. But overall, I think when it comes to Costa getting on the inside, I think Anderson Silva will clinch up against him and have a lot of success in the clinch. And not only that, I just feel like he'll land a lot of strikes, a lot of leg kicks as well against Paulo Costa. And Paulo Costa will be very second-guessing, biting on a lot of feints against Anderson Silva. I think Anderson Silva would absolutely dog Paulo Costa. And now we get to the last 3-round fight, and that's with number 11 ranked Brendan Allen. Now, I actually think that Brendan Allen could have some moments of success against Silva. He is a good grappler, but also what lets Brendan Allen down, in my opinion, is his fight IQ. I think his fight IQ is really, really bad. I feel like it's been demonstrated a load of times. And I know it's a different style, but I remember Chris Curtis putting hands on Brendan Allen for 5 rounds. I feel like Silva has better hands than Chris Curtis. Again, I know it's a different style, but I do think he has better hands than Chris Curtis, and I think he'll be able to damage Brendan Allen a fair bit. Brendan Allen, not really that great on the feet. I think he's okay. He's nothing crazy. His defense, Marvin Vettori is landing a lot of straight shots against him. So I think Anderson Silva would have an absolute field day when it comes to the striking against Brendan Allen. And I say he gets a 30-27, maybe a 29-28 if Brendan Allen's able to keep the back of Anderson Silva for an entire round or something. But I think Silva will be able to work out Brendan Allen fairly easily. And now we get to the 5-round fights. Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, arguably the dark horse of the middleweight division, actually takes on Roman Dolidze this weekend as well, which I'm very interested in. But how does he match up against Anderson Silva? Now, obviously, Anthony Hernandez, he likes to try and be like a wet blanket and just, you know, jump on you and not get out your face, breathe in your face a stinky breath and just constantly be there. But I've always noticed with Anthony Hernandez, he's really weak to the body. And I actually think Anderson Silva will be able to, you know, take advantage of that and get a body shot KO against Anthony Hernandez. Maybe drops him with a knee to the body, because Anderson Silva had great knees. Knee to the body and then finishes with ground and pound. However, this would be in like the 3rd or 4th round. I think it might be a bit clutch of Silva. I feel like Hernandez would really win the first few rounds quite clearly as well. but then eventually he maybe starts to slow down a bit, or his concentration lacks or something, and I feel like Anderson Silva will be able to find that finish. I really do think he'll be able to finish Anthony Hernandez. I'm not exactly sold on Hernandez and his durability. Okay, next up we have number 9, Roman Dolidze. How would this one fare out? Now, Roman Dolidze is a big guy. We've seen him fight at 205 before against Anthony Smith, one of the greatest fights of all time. But yeah, how would this one play out? Now, I think Dolidze could have some moments of success, but his fight IQ is not the best. His stand-up's not great, but I feel like he could, because his grappling's okay and he's a big guy. I feel like he could make it a bit difficult for Silva here and there, but I just think Silva's too tricky and techie with it. You know, he's like the Neymar of MMA, the Ronaldinho of MMA. I've always said that about Anderson Silva, and I think he'll be able to finish Roman Dolidze in like the second round. I think he'll be able to find the chin of Roman Dolidze and really hurt him badly and put him away in the second or third round. But I do think Roman Dolidze could have some success against Anderson Silva, in all fairness. And now we get to number 8, which is a former opponent of Anderson Silva, and that is Jared Cannonier. Now, Jared Cannonier did get the win over Anderson Silva. However, this wasn't a prime Anderson Silva. This was an old, washed pensioner version of Anderson Silva, which is completely different. So how would it fare up now, a prime Anderson Silva against Jared Cannonier? I do think that Silva wins, but there is a definite possible chance that Cannonier chins him, because a prime Anderson Silva did love to taunt a bit. We all know this. I've got to factor that in, and there could be a possibility where Cannonier is able to chin him, and you've also got Cannonier with his great leg kicks as well. But then again, Cannonier is really hittable. He's been dropped and hurt multiple times. It's quite a hard one. I think I'm going to stick with my gut and say that Anderson Silva wins this one. I think it'll be very contested, and I wouldn't be surprised if Cannonier was able to find the W in this one. But I'm going to go with Anderson Silva by a third round knockout. I think it would hurt him badly, drop Jared Cannonier, and get the ground and pound finish. I just think Jared Cannonier, he's a very strong guy. He's like an ox, you know what I mean? But he is very hittable, and he has been hurt before, and I think a prime Anderson Silva will be able to find that chin and put Jared Cannonier away in the third or fourth round. And now we get to number 7 ranked Robert Whittaker, the Reaper, who just lost last weekend to Reinier De Ridder in a very close and competitive fight. But how would it play out between Whittaker and Anderson Silva, a prime Anderson Silva? I actually think Whittaker has a style what's quite tricky for Anderson Silva, even in his prime. He's got a lovely snappy jab, one of the best jabs in the UFC in my opinion. Granted, remember, this is a current Whittaker, not a prime Whittaker, a current Whittaker. But Whittaker also as well, he's very nice with his footwork. He's very loose on the feet. He has good cardio, and not only that, he does a great job of mixing in his grappling here and there, which I think could really throw Silva off, and that's what would really make things difficult for Silva. Whittaker mixing everything in. I feel like Silva will be able to do great against the jabs of Whittaker and a lot of the striking offense. I think Silva will be able to hurt Whittaker as well and find that chin, but I do think Whittaker could make this competitive. But I am going to say, with the durability and how many times Whittaker's been caught and whatnot and just hurt in recent times, again, this is a current Whittaker. I think a prime Anderson Silva would find that chin. It's not like it hasn't been found before, so I think Silva finds the chin of Whittaker and puts him away in the second round. I think he gets it quite early on. In number 6, we have Caio Borralho. How would he match up against a Brazilian legend? Two Brazilians going at it, a prime Anderson Silva and Caio Borralho, who's number 6. How would this one play out? Man, I'm going to be honest, I've been loving Silva so far, but I think Borralho might get him, you know. I think Borralho might get him. He's really big for 185. I think he's really switched on. He's really well-rounded. Fair enough, he hasn't really been tested against someone elite in my opinion. I think Imavov, his next fight, we'll really find out a lot about both fighters in that fight. More so for Borralho, really, because I think he hasn't been tested as much as Imavov. But still, regardless, stop talking about that fight. Hold on a minute, I'm talking, brother. Stop talking about that fight. How would Borralho do against a prime Anderson Silva? Now, I think Silva will be able to hurt Borralho, but I just think Borralho will be able to get the takedowns against Silva, be able to hold him down. I don't think he'll be able to inflict too much damage against Silva, but I do think he'll be able to win a lot of rounds against Silva. I'm going to go with like a 48-47 for Borralho. I think there'll be rounds where Silva's able to hurt Borralho, and that's what wins him the round possibly. But ultimately, I just see Borralho being able to control Silva, you know, do okay on the feet because of a takedown threat. And when he does, I do think he will be able to get a lot of takedowns against Silva and keep him down for a long period of time. Therefore, I'm going with Borralho by a 48 decision. division. Very competitive and close, though. Ooh, next up, Reinier De Ridder taking on a prime Anderson Silva. Very interesting. How would this one play out? Both guys quite big for 185, in my opinion. I think RDR would be much bigger than a prime Anderson Silva as well, but how would this one play out? I think RDR is definitely going to have success. Let's be honest, you know, kind of like Hernandez, wet blanket shit, gets in the clinch and whatnot. I do think Silva would do quite decent in the clinch, though, of landing his own knees, because obviously RDR does a great job of the stepping knees. I think that could hurt Silva. I think he could trouble Silva here and there. I do think Silva will be able to land clean, and what I noticed in that fight between RDR and Whittaker, RDR doesn't react that well to shots. He was getting hit by some jabs, and you know, jabs, don't get me wrong, they can hurt you, but they're not necessarily really footing. Like, Whittaker's not known for like a footing jab, it's more of a snappy jab, and he would like turn away and go backwards and like turn away. I was like, that's really not a good reaction, and I feel like Silva will be able to really hurt RDR. Now, I do think RDR would be able to make this difficult with his the sheer size and the grappling side of things for RDR, and even land some clean shots against Silva as well, like the knee and maybe some overhand rights. But I am going to say that Silva's able to beat RDR. I just think he looks too lost on the feet. People might say, well, but you think Borralho? I think Borralho, yeah, it's very clear that his striking is his weakest point and whatnot, but at least he looks comfortable on the feet. RDR, to me, doesn't look that comfortable on the feet. He looks slow, he looks sluggish. I think also Silva would do great with leg kicks, by the way. I think Silva would find the chin. I really do. I think RDR does have a chin, by the way. He got dropped by a big overhand right by Whittaker, but I do think Silva is more precise than Whittaker, and I think he's better at being a finisher. So I'm going to say that Silva gets, you know what, a first round finish. I'm going to say a first round finish. I think whilst he's nice and snappy, you know, maybe he's just defended himself from some sort of grappling exchange, and then I think he'll be able to get the attack on RDR and find the chin and put him away in the very first round. Next up at number 4, Israel Adesanya. Now, of course, we got this fight, a passing of the torch kind of fight, you know what I mean? Back in like, what, 6 years ago, I think it was now. Crazy. How would this fight play out in their primes? Everyone's been talking about this fight prime for prime for years. However, Adesanya's not in his prime right now. This is the worst version of Adesanya we've seen in a long time. I am going to say that Anderson Silva wins. If this was prime v prime, maybe will be different arguments, but right now we've seen Adesanya get finished dust on the feet like in his last fight against Imavov and even against Alex Pereira. I think the leg kicks from Anderson Silva would do great against Adesanya. Adesanya's great with leg kicks as well, but he doesn't look like they really hurt opponents. Silva was hurting people with leg kicks. I think in the clinch is where he would be able to get a lot of offense off. I feel like even a washed and old Silva was making it competitive against Adesanya as well, and that's arguably one of the best versions of Adesanya that 2019 year was. So I think that Silva's able to find the chin of Adesanya in like the 4th or 5th round. I think this will be like a very boring chess match, but then eventually Silva susses it out and is able to get the knockout over Adesanya. I think he'll hurt him with the legs. I think he'll break him down a bit, hurt his legs, hurt him to the body a bit, and then I think he would find the chin in the 5th or 4th round against Adesanya. So I think Silva wins this one. Okay, rest in peace. Number 3, Khamzat Chimaev. Yeah, Khamzat Chimaev's going to absolutely wallop Silva. I think he gets a first round submission against Anderson Silva. Like, yeah, Silva's weakest part was always like takedown defense and, you know, be controlled. Chael Sonnen did a great job of it. I think Khamzat is 100 times the grappler of Chael Sonnen. No disrespect to the great one, but yeah, I think Khamzat will be able to take down Anderson Silva. He's a big guy. He's very aggressive. He's fast paced. Take down Anderson Silva and get the submission in the very first round. I genuinely believe that is the case. I would love to say, oh, maybe Anderson Silva's able to weather the storm and come on later. I don't think that's the case. I think Khamzat just takes him down and fucking bombs him, and that's that. Okay, now number 2, we have Sean Strickland. How would this one play out? This is kind of a weird one in my opinion. I think Strickland would do great with his defense against Silva. I do think Silva will be able to find it out though. I think he would clinch a lot against Sean Strickland and maybe get some elbows and knees off. I think he'll do a good job of the leg kicks. Now, I know Strickland did a great job of anticipating the leg kicks of Adesanya, but I don't think that was a great version of Adesanya. I think a prime Silva will be able to land a few leg kicks against Strickland. And you know what? I actually think Silva wouldn't really show too much respect to Sean Strickland. I think if you show too much respect to Sean Strickland, you get Paulo Costa and Sean Strickland, and even Adesanya and Sean Strickland. I don't think Silva would do that. I really don't. Like Pereira, I think he would know I'm a better striker than this guy. guy. I'll be able to find this guy's chin. And I actually think Silva would find the chin of Strickland. I actually do. In like the second round, first round, similar to, not similar to Alex Pereira, but being like a fast start. I think Pereira finds the chin of Strickland. I think he does him in with a few leg kicks. I think maybe he gets a bit of success in the clinch. I also think Strickland would do well with landing a few jabs, but that's about it. Maybe he does land a straight right. Who knows what dropped Adesanya. But ultimately, I think that Silva will be able to get Strickland out of it in like the first or second round. Ooh, okay. Now we get to Nassourdine Imavov as number 1. How would this one play out? I haven't really put too much thought into this one. This is very interesting. This is really interesting because Imavov's quite big as well for 185. I feel like he really might be in his prime right now. He's been looking great recently against Brendan Allen and Adesanya, and who knows against Caio Borralho as well. I think Imavov might be able to get the win here. I think this will be very competitive. I think it'll be really close. I think Imavov will be able to land some big shots against Anderson Silva as well. I think Imavov might be able to finish Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva had great defense, but I feel like Imavov's just one of those who would be able to find a chin of Silva. I'll be completely honest. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Imavov 3rd, 4th round knockout over Anderson Silva. I think this will be very competitive and close. I think Silva will be able to damage Imavov quite a bit as well. I think Imavov's quite good though. He gets hit, but he never gets hit with like a massive shot in my opinion. And I think that'll be a struggle for Silva to land a massive big shot against Imavov. But I think Imavov's gonna win this. I think Silva's leg kicks could trouble Imavov a lot. But overall, I think Imavov's okay in the clinch. I think his striking's really good. I think he's really just putting everything together right now. I think Imavov gets a 4th round knockout over Anderson Silva. And now the final one, the champion, Dricus Du Plessis taking on a prime Anderson Silva. How does this one pan out? I think Anderson Silva could definitely be the one to find the chin of Dricus Du Plessis because he's got such an unorthodox style, you know, just literally throws the kitchen sink at you. Not even just, you know, me saying that as a joke. He literally does. That's his style. Throw the kitchen sink at you, throw a piano at you, throw a fan at you, throw whatever he wants at you. He throws everything at you. And I feel like just because of his awkwardness, it is quite hard to land clean on him. But I do think Silva's also quite unorthodox. You know, he's not as weird as a style as DDP. It's not a shit style, you know what I mean? But it is very unorthodox and awkward as well. And that's why I think Silva could find the chin of DDP. But I am going to have to go with my gut and say that DDP with mixing in the grappling. He's very good at utilizing his grappling, by the way. He's a big, strong guy. He has a chin. He's able to fight well at a stupid pace for 5 rounds as well. I feel like Silva would want to dictate the pace, but I don't think he'll be able to against DDP. I think DDP gets like a 48-47, a 49-46 against Anderson Silva. This will be very close and competitive. I could see how Silva will be able to finish DDP and maybe even win on the judges' scorecards, but I'm just going to go with my gut on this one and say that DDP, by plus armor and just by mixing everything in and being super awkward, he'll be able to beat and get past Anderson Silva by decision. And that's how I think a prime Anderson Silva will get on against the middleweight division. Let me know in the comments if you agree with me, disagree with me. Let me know who you think his hardest matchup would be. Thank you for watching the video, guys. Let me know in the comments who you would want to see next, maybe like as a beat or someone like that, a mythical fighter. That would be a pretty cool one. Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching the video. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.